Good day, everyone, especially to our instructor, Sir Jeffrey Torres. So, our group are assigned to discuss about the Lorentz curve in economics. So, now, let us define these important curves in economics. First is the Laffer curve. This is the change in tax and revenue. Second is Phillips curve, a relationship between unemployment rate and inflation. Next is Lorentz curve. It is income inequality. Next is Kuznets curve, which is growth and inequality. So now let's focus on the Lorentz curve or income inequality. So Lorentz curve is a graph of curve to present the proportionality in income distribution usually. It can also be used to show distribution of assets, but most economics think that use Lorentz curve to study income distribution is a measure of social inequality. Okay, so the Lorentz curve is very important because it helps in understanding economic inequality. When the Lorentz curve keeps moving away from the baseline, it indicates that the level of inequality distribution keeps increasing. So, on the next slide, there is a Lorentz curve. It shows us two different situations. Before we learn these two situations, there are two examples here. Okay, so first example is, if there is a country, a very equal society, no rich man or poor man, everyone have the same wealth. 20% people of population have 20% wealth of society. 50% of people population have 50% wealth of society. So here we can see that there is an equal rate in their population and the wealth. Next example is letter B. And if there is a country, everyone has inequality wealth. 1% people of population have 99 wealth of society, and 99% of population have 1% wealth of society. So there is a contradiction of there is an equal rate of their wealth and the people. So that's the two example. So what is the Lorentz curve, by the way? So it developed in 1906 by Max Lorenz. So it is graphical representation of income inequality. Further the curve from baseline, higher will be the inequality. So Gini coefficient expresses the extent of inequality in a single figure. It can range from 0 or 0% to 1 or 100%. Okay, so here we can see that there is a graph presented. So here is a graph show the line of equality. So the x-axis is the percentage of population, y of income. The degree of Lorentz curve show the degree increasing represent gap between more, otherwise the situation is completely the opposite. So in common, a country's income distribution is inequality. It usually between two situations. There is a between the Lorentz curve and line of inequality, and lie below the Lorentz curve line and Lorentz curve whole area under the line, which is A plus B. So the area and the A plus B, we call it Gini coefficient. Okay, so the other group or other member should continue this lesson. So this is the continuation of the Lorenz curve. So how he presented. Here is a graph that shows the line of equality. So as you can see the graph, the x-axis is the percentage of the population, the y is of income. The degree of Lorenz curve show the degree increasing represent the gap become more, otherwise the situation is completely the opposite. In common, a country's income distribution is inequality. It usually between two situations. There is a between the Lorenz curve and line of equality, and lie below the Lorenz curve line and Lorenz curve whole area under the line, which is A plus B. The area and the A plus B, we called it Gini coefficient. What is Gini coefficient? So Gini coefficient is a measurement criteria to measure. We will learn it later. So these are the graph, which is the logic behind his measurement. You can see the x and y axis. So there is a cumulative percent of income, wealth in the y-axis, and in the x-axis is the cumulative population. So at the center there is a the distribution or equal distribution of income. So as I have said earlier, you can see in the center the A and B. So it is perfectly equal distribution. So these are the steps in Lorenz curve. First is to find the cumulative values of the size of items or variable values as well as the frequencies. Second, it expresses these cumulative values as percentages by taking the grand total for each as 100. Third, it represents the percentages of cumulative frequencies on the x-axis, starting the scale from 100 to 0. Fourth, it represents the percentage of cumulated values of the variable on the y-axis, starting the scale from 0 to 100. Then, number 5, draw a diagonal line joining the 0 on the x-axis with 100 on and this is called the line of equal distribution. So plot the percentages of cumulative values of the variable or y against the percentage of corresponding cumulative frequencies x, and join these points with a smooth freehand curve to obtain Lorenz curve for the given distribution. So those are the steps that Lorenz curve that we apply, and we can see it in the graph. This graph showing income inequality, rich and poor. So complete equality among the poor but high income of the few rich. So as you can see, it point it in 0 to 100 for the share of population percent, and 100 to 0 of the share in income. This time we will proceed to the uses of this curve. This curve is B.W. Behar or Carrella about schooling versus population. So why we have wealth gap? There are many reasons for economic inequality within societies. These causes are often interrelated. Acknowledged factors that impact economic inequality include the labor market, innate ability, education, computerization or growing technology, economic neoliberalism, and globalization. Wealth gap occurs when this kind of economic equality will be included. Race, gender, culture, wealth condensation, development patterns, personal preference for work, leisure, and risk, destruction of progressive taxation. Recent years in India, the wealth gap has become a big problem affected society development. Especially in some developed area, wealth gap make a lot of trouble in this era. Like violent crime become more than and more frequent, poor families are hard to find any living space. Solve the gap in rich and poor. We need to improve the labor market, decrease the unemployment rate, hire more people for working. We need to improve our education system, give next generation a right direction, more useful abilities. So in solving a gap or in rich and poor, we need to improve our education system. We need to input the students the good learnings. So we need to develop the technology, increase our productivity. So in these times that we are surrounded by different technologies, that we must be educated enough in using technologies and be developed enough in technologies. Our strengthening charity promotion let rich people donate more for the society. So we all know that rich peoples also donated something for different charities in order for them to help the people who are in need. Use of this Lorenz curve. Lorenz curves graph percentiles of the population against cumulative income or wealth of people at or below that percentile. Lorenz curved along with their derivative statistics. So in Lorenz curve, it's showing distribution income among the people. Helps the comparing two or more factors of production. So in Lorenz curve, there are two comparing of factors of production. In such use, many economists consider it to be the measure of social inequality.
Gini coefficient. Gini coefficient is developed by Italian statistician and sociologist Corrado Gini in 1912. It is a ratio between 1 and 0. It is used to measure the people's income gap. Gini coefficient is usually defined mathematically based on the Lorenz curve. In this graph, line A is a special situation called line of perfect equality. In this situation, everyone has the same wealth. Line B represents an inequality situation. Everyone has different wealth. Line C is a line of perfect inequality. This means only one person have the all wealth. Perfectly equality and total inequality. Gini coefficient 0 to 1. In number 1, perfect equality, G1 is equal to 0. And number 2, unequal, G2 is greater than 0. Number 3, more unequal, G3 is greater than G2. The last one is total inequality. G4 is equal to 1. In a perfect society, everyone would share wealth or income evenly. The Gini coefficient is one way to measure how evenly the income or wealth is distributed throughout a country. Limitation of Lorenz curve. The amount of inequality may be misleading. If richer households are able to use their incomes more efficiently than lower income households, the amount of inequality could be understated. When comparing two Lorenz curves, it is not possible to determine which distribution has more inequality if the two curves intersect. An individual's income varies over his lifetime, and this variation is not considered when analyzing inequality using a Lorenz curve. Lorenz curve ignores life cycle effects. Conclusion: a Lorenz curve is a graphical representation of the distribution of income or wealth within a population. Lorenz curves graph percentiles of the population against cumulative income or wealth of people at or below that percentile. Lorenz curves may be a useful tool in the analysis of Carey's data, which is special reference to determining the appropriateness of implementing high-risk preventive strategies. So that would be the report of Amante's group. Thank you and God bless.